XRP is having a very big DeFi moment on it right now, and I think that a lot of people are just not paying attention to this simply because of price action, and I totally get it. I understand it. However, I do think that there's something really important to look into when it comes back to the whole DeFi moment, because if we think about Ethereum, I mean, Ethereum for the longest time has been a very large asset in the space, very expensive, network to move money on, which makes it, inefficient compared to some of these other networks. But it has been very successful in the evolution of the DeFi market. It's been a very dominant name in the DeFi market as well for years, boasting well over 100 billion plus in TVL at points in time. And if we're thinking about that, XRP is one that really hasn't had a ton of DeFi growth around it. And you would think that XRP would be a very dominant force in the DeFi market, considering the fact that, XRP was one of the first networks in the space to have, a built-in DEX, tokenization initiatives built into the network from launch. But no, XRP has been pretty much a ghost town for DeFi up until roughly 2024. But I'm bringing this up because we know how inefficient Ethereum is. Now with DeFi, growing at the rate that it is on the XRP ledger, I do think that XRP could start to really eat away a large portion of the demand and dominance in the DeFi market. Now let's start off with Flare Networks, because they recently posted this XRP Fi strategy, and you probably remember me including this image in a video, but they've been posting this quite a bit because this is the XRP Fi opportunities that are built within the Flare Network ecosystem. This is all built under one network. Look at this. You have Kinetic with Lend FXRP, Firelight with Staking FXRP, Upshift, which is Deposit FXRP, which, by the way, most of these, you could see the APR on this, like about 8%. This data is coming soon for the Firelight one, but I do know that it's a pretty high percentage. I think it's well over 3%. Kinetic is 3.06%. We also have Spark DEX, so Supply FXRP and USDT0. This is about 38.59%. We have Spectra at 15.24%. Anosis at 137.82%, which, by the way, full transparency, all of this is high risk. You could definitely lose your FXRP, which is converted from XRP itself. But on top of that, the APR that is shown will drop as more capital is, pretty much borrowed or, even, tapped in or staked, if you will. Because again, that's just how DeFi works. If you get in early enough, then yes, you are, tapped in at that high percentage APR until more participants join in on the pool. But if we look at all of these other ones, 58%, 20%, there's a lot of great things happening here for XRP on some of these networks. And I'm sure that a lot of people are aware of the risk, so they're not going all in or anything like that. But, this is a very good moment for XRP because for the longest time, this was basically non-existent. And now it's becoming a reality. Now, already, we know that Flare continues to launch more and more pairs. This is FXRP and USDH. Its spot is now live on Hyperliquid. So following the launch of FXRP and USDC launch, this new USDH pairing expands XRP trading infrastructure on Hyperliquid, aligning XRP liquidity with Hyperliquid's native settlement layer, 20% lower taker fees plus 50% higher maker rebates via USDH, new XRP spot plus perp strategies unlocked. XRP remains anchored to the XRP ledger as well. So again, they're constantly growing more and more the network and the ecosystem around XRP Fi, which we love to see. And of course, why USDH built by native markets is a good quote asset for FXRP. Explore new XRP strategies or trading strategies unlocked on Hyperliquid. They have a full guide down here on exactly why. Ultimately, we know why, just to increase liquidity around some of these pairs. And again, this is just another great pair for, expansion. Now, on top of that, we have over here, XRP isn't just a payments token anymore. Is crypto Twitter asleep on this? And yeah, they are. Listen, nobody's really paying attention to this, but if we go all the way back here to September, we can see that the locked FXRP has grown from nothing to over 92.5 million FXRP. That is wild. $128.6 million worth of locked TVL already in DeFi. Like I said, the XRP DeFi ecosystem is heating up in a big way. This is incredible to see. Now, remember, 92.6 million FXRP. Hugo, the co-founder of Flare, put out a new update regarding this. FXRP supply is increasing markedly. The markets are weak, but on Flare, the utility is real. And this is already over 94 million. Guys, it's wild to see how fast this is growing. But this is the power behind DeFi with, Flare network. But even if this was built on the XRP ledger itself, because it's not a full-on, XRP ledger built product, if this was fully built on the XRP ledger, this would also be extremely efficient. But Flare is right there as well. Flare is extremely efficient to build on, especially for DeFi. It's great to see. And this definitely does affect XRP. So we love to see it. This is awesome. Now, on top of that, top DeFi projects by social activity, XRP was number 2. That's crazy. Solana is number 1, but XRP is number 2. We have engaged posts, over 24,000 interactions, over 12 plus million. So we could see that XRP is getting a lot of love from the DeFi side of the market, most likely because of what's happening here around Flare. I mean, guys, everyone is starting to realize the power behind DeFi with XRP. This is an incredible thing to see, especially if you hold XRP, because now people are starting to tap in and utilize XRP, not just hold XRP, but utilize it. Lock it up in pools, which are locked up for a certain amount of time. This is great for the supply squeeze. I don't think that it's going to be a supply squeeze overnight or happen in, this year, but over time, as more and more adoption happens around the DeFi market for XRP, more use cases lock up XRP, it could definitely happen, but we're very early on that at this point. But we can track all of this over here on XRP Radar. This is in the DeFi AMM side, over 222.2 million XRP locked, total TVL, over $470 million. This is great. And again, Flare F assets, 90.8 million XRP locked in, $201 million. We could see where all of that value is. So lending with Kinetic, it's about 48.2 million. Spark Dex about 22.3 million. Firelight about 20.4 million. This is awesome. This is awesome. Now, Doppler Finance is one that we also have been watching for. $82 million worth of XRP, about 39.9 million XRP. We also have XRP Ledger native AMM. That's about 10 million XRP, about $21 million. And then Strobe Finance, about 2.5 million XRP. But I would assume that this is probably going to grow a lot more over time, especially when we are thinking about Flare, constantly growing and constantly expanding as well. And then also Doppler Finance is very new, but we already know that Doppler Finance is starting to expand the reach of, XRP and RWAs on the XRP ledger as well, which we'll get to here in a moment. But don't forget that video clip from Luke from Ripple. This is a Ripple exec. We want XRP everywhere. XRP is expanding into Solana DeFi to tap new users, new demand, and deeper liquidity. 20 million plus phantom wallets, native dexes, prediction markets. This isn't tribal crypto talk. It's a distribution strategy. Now, this is very similar to FXRP in a way, because this is going to be wrapped XRP, which is still going to affect XRP, and it's also going to add to even more TVL and XRP locked as well. But check this out.
There's 3 things that I think make the Solana ecosystem an exciting place to launch XRP. New users, new demand, and market depth. So in terms of users, I think you've got a number of Tier 1 wallets such as Phantom that have, say, 20 million active wallets that can now access and use XRP. New demand, you've got a number of financial primitives and actually kind of more bespoke applications such as prediction markets, perps, dexes, that we can now get XRP kind of deeply embedded in. And I think in terms of market depth, there's a number of kind of Solana native tokens that we compare XRP with, which I think will be very complementary to XRP, the digital asset. Like, the way I've been thinking about this is like, if you think of digital assets as a similar way to currencies, the US dollar would not be the global reserve currency if you can only buy it in America and the United States. And so I think it's very interesting if we distribute XRP into other blockchains and you think of them as other countries. I think that's a very interesting value proposition for us. And I think Solana is a perfect ecosystem to start.
So yeah, I mean, I think that this is great for XRP, like expanding XRP access to other networks through cross-chain initiatives. It is so bullish. I think that a lot of people get caught up in the whole idea that like everything has to be native. But Ethereum has been so successful because of all of the bridges tied to Ethereum. Like you have Aave tied back to Ethereum. You have, these DEXs tied back to Ethereum. There's so many big DeFi initiatives tied back to Ethereum. And now we're starting to see that happen with XRP and the XRP ledger. Now, like I said, Doppler Finance, right? Doppler Finance having almost 40 million XRP tied back to it. I think that this is a very early, amount. And this is going to grow rapidly, especially through a lot of their partnerships, like, for example, Doppler Finance with SBI Ripple Asia. This is all based around XRP yield and RWA tokenization. So this is all tied back to the same thing, right? And we talked about this before. This is definitely a big initiative, and I'm very excited about it because this is going to be very big in Japan. But this is all based around trusted yield infrastructure, as well as, tokenization initiatives around RWAs. I think that this is incredible for institutional DeFi and just institutional XRP adoption, which they mentioned down here as well. And I think that this is going to provide a lot more demand for XRP. And that amount of XRP that is locked up in a Doppler Finance, that's also going to increase drastically. We already know that RWAs on XRP have been growing rapidly over the last 30 days. I mean, represented asset values over $1.44 billion, up about 264%. Distributed asset value is up about 10.5% at about $236 million. The overall stablecoin 30-day transfer volume is up 28%, over 1 billion, while RWA 30-day transfer volume is down about 90%, only at $10 million. But I suspect that both of these are going to grow rapidly. But the main thing that I'm looking at is tokenized value. I mean, tokenized value is starting to, grow rapidly on the XRP ledger, which I'm very excited about. And we already know that Luke said, hey, we have $2 billion tied back to the XRP ledger. And now we can see where most of that value is coming from. Like, for example, Just Token, which is a commodity. If you actually look into this, okay, this is a digital asset where each token represents 1 real megawatt hour of energy backed by the energy companies. So this is already tokenized on the XRP ledger. We didn't even really hear about this, but we'll probably see a big announcement regarding this very soon. But this is incredible to see. And there's so much more here as well. There's private equity. I mean, guys, tokenized assets on the XRP ledger are starting to grow in a big way. And this is all in part with opening up the door for institutional DeFi initiatives through those tokenized assets. Like, for example, even the partnership with Evernorth. This is all to power institutional XRP infrastructure to bring in institutional adoption, provide institutional liquidity deployment, on-chain treasury management use cases. I mean, there's so many big opportunities here, but it all comes back to the idea of supporting the DeFi market because we know institutional DeFi is a big deal. Now, again, the main reason why the XRP ledger has been pretty boring for DeFi is because the amendments to support big DeFi use cases like institutional DeFi, they're still in progress. XLS 66, which is the lending protocol, we recently talked about this. This is still becoming a reality. But this is all based around yield generation that Evernorth is focused on with this amendment. It paves the way for institutional DeFi in the form of vaults, very similar to XRP Fi on Flare networks, because again, this is all through a vault. That's what is going to happen here for the native XRP ledger once this amendment is cleared. So this is going to be huge for the XRP DeFi ecosystem to grow it rapidly, expand it in a big way. So I'm very excited about that. So we have a lot of big things happening around the XRP ledger. And I do think that 2026 is going to be the year where XRP DeFi really starts to take off. Like, we're going to be looking back at this list and saying, well, it was 470 million back in February. I do think that that total value locked could easily hit, close to $1 billion+ by the end of this year. And I think that that's a very low conservative amount where we could very well see multiple billions of dollars tied back to the DeFi market for XRP. And that's going to be very exciting to watch happen in real time. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.